this with me right now. Close your mouth and just hum. Any note, doesn't matter which. Hold it for a few seconds. Did you feel that? A slight buzz behind your nose, maybe in your cheekbones? That's not nothing. That's a measurable chemical change happening in your skull right now. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why researchers in Sweden call this one of the most underrated tools in neuroscience, and why it's completely free. In 2002, a researcher at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden ran an experiment that sounds almost silly on paper. He measured the gas coming out of people's noses while they hummed. What he found got published in a major respiratory medicine journal, and it's been replicated many times since. Humming increases nitric oxide in your nasal passages by roughly 15 times. Not 15%, 15 times. Nitric oxide isn't some obscure molecule. It does three specific things. It widens your blood vessels, meaning more oxygen reaches your brain and organs. It has antimicrobial properties, playing a role in fighting off airborne bacteria and viruses. And inside your brain specifically, it acts as a signaling molecule involved in how neurons communicate with each other. But nitric oxide is only half the story. Humming also mechanically vibrates something called the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running from the base of your brain down through your neck, past your heart, into your gut. This nerve is the main switch between your fight or flight state and your calm, rest and digest state.
Here's what made this nerve frustrating for researchers for decades. You can't consciously flex it. You can't train it at a gym. It sits deep in your body, largely outside voluntary control. Which is exactly why the discovery that vibration alone could stimulate it, just from the sound waves of your own voice, mattered so much. A study published in 2011 measured heart rate variability, which is the standard scientific measure of how active your calming nervous system is before and after 5 minutes of humming. The increase was significant, in a range comparable to what researchers typically see after a full guided meditation session, but achieved in a quarter of the time. Let's actually walk through what's happening in real time. In the first 10 seconds, your vocal cords begin vibrating, and that vibration travels directly into your sinus cavities. By around 20 seconds, nitric oxide levels in those cavities are already climbing. By 30 seconds, that nitric oxide has moved into your bloodstream, and researchers have measured a small, real rise in blood oxygen by this point. Between 40 and 60 seconds, the vagus nerve, now steadily stimulated, sends signals up into the brainstem, which in turn triggers the release of calming neurotransmitters, including GABA and serotonin. Around the same point, heart rate typically starts to slow, and EEG studies have shown a rise in alpha brainwave activity, the same pattern associated with relaxed, focused states in experienced meditators' experience.
There's also a less obvious effect. A study out of Northwestern University found that people who hummed before a memorization task recalled meaningfully more words than those who didn't. The leading explanation involves the hippocampus, the brain's memory formation center, which appears to benefit from the combination of increased blood flow and vagal activation that humming produces. None of this is actually new to humans, even if the biochemistry was only recently mapped. Sustained humming or chanting appears independently across wildly different traditions. Bee breath practices in yogic breathing, prolonged Om chanting in Tibetan practice, sustained resonant tones in Gregorian chant. Different centuries, different continents, no shared origin, and yet they converged on the same physical act. To be clear about what this is and isn't, this isn't a replacement for treating a real medical condition, a diagnosed anxiety disorder, or chronic illness. It's a low-cost tool that works alongside those things, not instead of them. And if you currently have an active sinus infection, vigorous humming can sometimes aggravate that inflammation, so gentler practice is more appropriate in that specific case. Here's the practical version. Sit comfortably, spine upright but relaxed. Inhale slowly through your nose for about 4 seconds. As you exhale, hum at a comfortable pitch,
sustaining it for as long as feels natural, roughly 8 to 12 seconds. Pause briefly, then repeat. 5 minutes total, once in the morning or once before bed, is enough to match what the research above is actually describing. You don't need more than that to get the effect these studies measured.
So the next time you catch yourself humming without thinking about it, that instinct is older and more useful than it looks. A free 60-second action is quietly changing your blood chemistry, stimulating one of your body's most important nerves, and shifting your brain waves all at once. Try the 5-minute version tonight before bed, and tell me in the comments if you actually notice a difference the next morning. This is exactly what this channel is for. Real neuroscience, explained without the hype, and something you can actually use every week. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding how your own brain actually works.